what do we got, 6 days, 7 days left of, almost 6 days, 6.5 days, because we're staying late tonight, right? We'll be wrapping up the budgeting process. We feel like that's went really well. We'll be having discussions about that tomorrow. So we're excited to get that out there. There's not a lot of money, you guys know that. But we feel like there's all the top priorities have been taken care of. That's what makes Utah great, is we're one of the best managed state in the nation when it comes to our fiscal responsibility, and we're going to keep that. So I've got Representative Moss here. You guys know energy's been a huge deal. Representative Moss has been leading energy, so we'll talk about energy for just a minute, and the resolution that he passed off the floor today, and anything else that he thinks is important.
Yeah, thanks, Speaker. No, it's a big deal, and we're really excited about a couple bills that we're working on that we think will really help the citizens for the state of Utah. We've been spending a lot of time the last 2 years. Representative Jack and Albrecht have been really leading the charge on the House side, and we're grateful that we have such incredible expertise in our body. But they really were the ones that started speaking out about this, saying, we're headed to a point where we think it could be an energy crisis. We're seeing what's happening with artificial intelligence. Obviously, we're leaning in as a state. We're a very technology-friendly state, but we're seeing so much that's happening there that's going to have a big impact on our energy needs. And then also, even looking at electric vehicles, we continue to be a state that's adopting that at very, very rapid paces. And so we've been trying really hard the last 2 years to do everything we can to provide reliable, affordable, dispatchable energy for our citizens. And this year, you've probably seen, but we're really leaning in on nuclear. We think that's an area that the state can get behind. We have a lot of public support behind it. Representative Albrecht is running a bill around a nuclear consortium. One of the challenges that we have with nuclear when we look at other states is a lot of what gets bogged down is regulatory environment, trying to get through all the processes, both at the state level, the local level, and up to the federal level. And so his bill is really trying to bring stakeholders together and really be able to make that process much more seamless. And also bringing, everything from our, research institutions that are developing out incredible research that could be, hopefully changing the way we do energy, up through working with our industry partners, currently working with other stakeholders, investors that are wanting to support the energy that we're trying to produce. We know that Utah just has a number of really good things going for it. We have more natural resources in the state of Utah than almost any state in the country. And so we want to continue to support that. So that's one bill that we're really excited about. Obviously the other is this interstate compact, where we're working with Idaho and Wyoming. We've been talking to their delegation, and they're very excited about what we're doing there. We've already been building some great partnerships with Idaho National Labs, but we've been talking to representatives in those states. Our governors have been meeting up. And we're seeing this happening in other parts of the country where there's groups of states getting together and saying, we share common interests, let's work together on these issues. And not only at the state level, but working with our federal delegation. And so really the hope with that bill is that we can coordinate efforts and work more closely together. So that did just pass off.
Yeah, we're stronger together. If there's more of us, then we're stronger, and it can turn out better for the citizens of Utah. So
we're the second lowest energy in the country right now. We want to make sure we continue to provide that level of, for our citizens and for our businesses. How do we make sure we continue to provide that type of energy?
Thanks, Representative Moss.
Yeah.
Questions?
So last fall, you talked about a pause on water policy as things get rolling and go into effect. We've seen some water bills this session. We've also seen some groups demonstrating against what they might call a water moratorium. Would you still consider this session a moratorium on water bills? Or?
Well, I don't know, to me, what I said was we're going to push pause on major water policy shifts. And we have several water policy bills. We think a lot of them are good and move things in a better direction. Representative Snyder's done really good work on working on those bills. And it continues to move things in a good direction. I never said that we're not going to run any water bills or change policy there. Just big policy shifts like we've been used to the last couple of years. You're not seeing those ran this year because we want to take and we want to look and make sure what we have done over the last several years is working. and fine tuning. And those are the bills that you're seeing, I think, and Representative Snyder can certainly go into more detail on those, but yeah.
But when Utahns might see headlines saying, oh, we're back into drought, would your message be if we do too much, that could also be a bad thing?
Yeah, well, anytime you take and shift centuries of water policy, I think it's important that we do so thoughtfully. We make sure that we're protecting people's water rights. We're making sure that we're protecting the Great Salt Lake. You look at it, the water policy of the state of Utah, because of the 1980s, let's say, it was viewed if water made it to the Great Salt Lake, it was wasted for the most part. And we had a whole shift, a set of structural statutes that surrounded that. That was problematic, right? But most of it came at a time when we had too much water in the Great Salt Lake. We would Governor Bangerter put pumps in. Again, we talked about this, and so there were a lot of water rights that were granted that shouldn't have been granted, quite frankly, that we had to figure out a way to navigate. We've done that. Now, we need to continue to do more. I'm not saying that we're not going to continue to do more. We need to continue to do more, but we need to do so thoughtfully and make sure we're making the right decisions. And so I stand by the decisions that we made to get us to where we're at today. You look at, really quite impactful and has had large impact on the Great Salt Lake and other areas of the state in the water policy that we've done. I'm confident in what we've done. Yes, we're doing some tweaks. Yes, we need to do more. Yes, we're going to continue to do more.
I wanted to ask, you have a bill that you have filed about who writes the constitutional amendment language.
Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish with that? And how do you feel?
Hey, I'll own it. We made a mistake and changing that last year. Again, we changed it before we even knew, about Amendment D, so it had nothing to do with any of that. But going through that process, sometimes you see that it might not have been the best idea. And again, it's kind of like the same thing with the water policy, right? Things roll out. You see, it may work, may not work. I feel like we want to take it back to the way it was before, based off of the way it played out over the past year. So. Yeah.
Representative Romero had a bill that said that the council should write impartial descriptions. Yours doesn't say that. It says the council shall write it as an officer or council of presiding officers. So are you guys still envisioning control over exactly what's said in those?
No, we're not going to be able to control what's said. So it just takes it back to the way it was before. So it takes it back to the way it was before. I think that worked well for decades or centuries. I don't know how long it's been in place, but it just takes it back to the way it was before.
Speaker, what do you think of the letter from the Judicial Council that they sent you and the Senate President, kind of amping up this criticism of these judiciary bills, but specifically, I think 512 that would put the legislature's thumb on the scale a little bit of retentions?
Well, I want to be clear. The legislature has the constitutional authority to have a check and balance and to make sure let's talk specifically to 512. The number one thing that we hear when ballots come out is we have no idea, no information on how to vote for our judges. And by the way, I've heard that from all sides, whether you're a Democrat or whether you're a Republican. I hear that from my constituents on a regular basis that they want more information on judges. That's what HB 512 is an attempt to do. Is that the right pathway? We're going to have that discussion. Let's see what it looks like as it moves through the process. But maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I'm confident that by the time we make it through the process, we will have a better pathway for citizens to have more information about the judges when it comes time to vote, because that is a huge concern that's out there with citizens.
Yeah, there are recommendations in that website. Is there any talk of maybe linking or referencing that website on the ballot rather than putting those recommendations directly on there?
Yeah, there's all kinds of conversations happening, and I just heard a couple of them just a few minutes ago. And I think as we have conversations, there's some valid concerns that are out there, and so that's part of the process, right? We want to have those discussions. we're listening, and we wanna continue to work through the process, see what it looks like.
Speaker, what is the state's response to the large amount of federal workers that have been laid off in the
Yeah.
state, and how do you plan to address that spike in unemployment?
Yeah, so I think it's important, let's see what happens, right? I've said this, and I truly believe it. I says, let's see what happens over the next several weeks or couple months as this process is playing out. Certainly, anytime anybody loses their job, that's concerning to the state of Utah. But we also need to recognize that our federal government has a spending problem. And $2 trillion in deficit, that's a problem, and it's not sustainable. And so, you know, we can all be critical of the way people went about it, or we cannot be critical either way. I think we all agree there's a problem, and, you know, how we solve the problem is, you know, probably up for debate. But, you know, they're going through a process. Let's see what it looks like over the coming weeks and months. And it is a little bit concerning to us. We've, anytime anybody loses any jobs, but we also recognize that getting our federal spending in check is a top priority for the state of Utah, because it's not sustainable, and if we don't, it'll cause bigger problems down the road. So we're fortunate. Utah's got one of the best economies in the nation, and so that's our goal, is to continue to provide jobs and opportunities for the citizens of the state. We are focused on that.
National parks are a big driver for tourism here. And
Yeah.
if we start losing park rangers, parks employees, or if we start losing, say, Forest Service employees, and we have a wildfire season, are you guys taking any, as you set up the budget for next year?
Well, you know, we're already set up. We have, you know, as the federal government, I mean, has closed or shut down.
Yeah.
State of Utah has stepped in, so we already have those contingency plans. We have a huge fire fighting fund for wildfires that's as large now, or bigger now than it's ever been. We're very well prepared, and you know, you brought up a good point, Robert. You know, it's really frustrating to us to see the way our federal land is taken care of, and the mismanagement, and it not being taken care of, and our citizens not having the opportunity. So we would love for the state to play a bigger role in that, and that's what we're asking for. That's kind of a bigger picture thing, but that's what we're asking for. And
You said that, you know, people can be critical about the way that they went about the layoffs. What do you think about the way that they're handling the layoffs?
well, you had to go in and shake it up, right? I mean, it has to be shaken up. You know, I think, you know, probably a little bit softer approach sometimes is maybe a little bit better, but, you know, let's see what happens over a little bit. You know, you have to go in and shake it up, and that definitely happened. I probably would have taken a little bit softer approach, but let's see what the outcomes are. And that's what I think, you know, people become very quickly to be critical on the legislature when shake-up starts to happen. But I think, you know, let's save judgment until we see what the outcome is.
If I can jump back to the judiciary for a sec, you have a bill that's still in process. Is that gonna move this session, or is it?
No, we're gonna hold off on that, but it is, you know, it was a great way to get the conversation going. We got a lot of good discussion from it, a lot of feedback from it, and you know, when we looked around at other states, you know, several states over the last few years have actually increased their size. Looking at other states, we're one of the only states of our size, we're a middle-sized state that is still at 5. And looking at how do you bring more participation, get more people looking at these cases, and also looking at the speed of these cases, right? We've had some concerns with how some of these cases have taken a long time. Maybe that could add additional support for that. So it's good to have the discussion, and we'll continue to have the discussion again.
I really want to have that discussion.
Back to the federal government for a second, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation paused its $50 million investment that it was making in the Great Salt Lake. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, and whether you're concerned that some of these federal directives or budget cuts could impact the grants from the state.
Yeah, I think they paused pretty much everything. So it wasn't just specific to that. So I think that's fair, right? Coming in, new administration comes in, pushing pause on it. We will continue to work with our federal partners to make our case why it's super important for those dollars. And I think we have a pretty good case to make, so we're going to continue to make that case.
Bring
How's
on-
your relationship feeling right now with the Senate? I know they've rejected a couple bills that you probably were pretty supportive of, and is there tension or last day, family fights, or how would you describe it?
There's always tension, which is good. That's the way the system is set up. I say this all the time. You take 104 lawmakers, people, most of which have type A personalities, throw them all in the same room and tell them to find good policy, and everybody coming from different positions, and there's going to be a little tension. I will say I don't feel like it's any different than any normal year. It's a healthy tension that's there, and we will work together collaboratively. I know a couple of those bills specifically that went down. I think they'll pass today. I mean, if I'm, or is it, anyways, I know one of them, pass today or tomorrow morning, but again, that's part of the process, right? We're looking forward to killing a couple of our Senate colleagues' bills, so, that's just the way it works.
Where, the ambulance fight's one that's gonna have to be resolved in the next few days, where would you like to see that one end up?
Yeah, I've been working on that. So there's two different approaches. Senator Colmore's been working on the concept. Darren Owens has a bill, as you know. I actually think the conversation's been good. They've had a lot of people, different stakeholders in the room. I think it's still being tweaked. There's still some discussion, but I think we're moving in a good place. So we're hoping to be able to get something wrapped up here soon.
I think you kind of have this balance that you're trying to find with free market and how do we keep costs lower, and then also recognizing that some jurisdictions has used the higher cost as a way to fund EMS. So I hope that we can work together to find a compromise that actually works better for the citizens of the state than what's currently happening. So that's what I'm pushing
The
for.
audit, a lot of the bill that Senator Owens is working on is dealing with that audit. And we're making sure that a lot of those issues are getting resolved in this bill. But to Mike's point, Speaker's point, making sure we don't create another problem by trying to solve a problem. So that's what we're trying to navigate through.
On the taxes, you have a budget hearing tomorrow night. Where have you landed on where things will ultimately be for any kind of tax cut?
Yeah, well, again, we want to give every Utahn a tax cut. So that's, income tax will be part of it. We want to address the Social Security taxes. We don't think that the high income earners should not pay their taxes. And then also, we want to make sure families are, the families in this state get a tax cut. And so that's part of our package. We want to give families a tax cut, every citizen a tax cut, and we want to continue to work on the Social Security. So I think you'll see that Social Security raised up to at least 90,000 probably, maybe higher. But we'll see those. We're still having those discussions.
Speaker, earlier this week, you cast a rare committee vote on Representative Hall's medical malpractice
Yeah.
modifications. I'm curious why you decided to weigh in on that one in the
Yeah.
committee process, in the committee phase,
Yeah.
and some members of the committee said that they wouldn't vote for the bill on the House floor if there weren't some changes.
Yeah.
I'm curious, first of all, why you
Yeah.
voted, and second of all, what kinds of changes you
Yeah.
expect might happen.
Look, that's an issue. The rising cost, and as I've dove into the numbers, I cannot believe the rising cost of insurance for these medical providers are going through the roof. And we're losing doctors in the state of Utah because of it. Utah has some of the lowest healthcare costs in the nation. But it's skyrocketing, and part of the reason it's skyrocketing is because of medical malpractice lawsuits by the trial lawyers. And in many cases, the frivolous ones. And so I understand some of the concerns that were mentioned inside the committee hearing. I was listening to it, and I understand some of those concerns, and I quite frankly share some of those concerns. So, but getting the costs under control for the citizens is important. It affects our Medicaid budget, and they talked about one or two examples that may have an impact on the Medicaid budget if there was a problem and they didn't get a huge lawsuit. Okay, let me talk about everybody else on the Medicaid system that is having to pay for, these lawsuits that in many cases are frivolous. So, and then, you know, we'll, getting those costs under control. We've got a lot of criticism, when we, tried to do the same thing with higher education at first. And, but we did it for the people. We did it for the citizens to control the cost. And we had a good outcome. It'll come out fairly quickly, I think, that Weber State University is not proposing a tuition increase for their associate's degrees this year. So that'll move through the process. We're excited about that, right? The things that we're doing to help keep costs low for the citizens of the state are super important. It's the number one thing that we're hearing about is the cost of inflation and the rising costs. Medical care is growing faster than almost anything else. It's important that we get it under control. That's what our goal is, and that's what we're intended to do.
Last question?
Yesterday, Representative Abbott unveiled a bill that would maybe replace the debate commission with a debate committee at UVU, or at least create a committee at UVU to do that. And I wonder if you guys are aware of this bill or the context for why he felt it was necessary to create this committee that would host the general election and primary
Yeah,
debates.
you know, the debate commission has struggled over the last, since I've been here, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the debate commission, and people criticizing it from all sides. And so, you know, we want to work together collaboratively. So let's see what it looks like. I mean, you know, whether, you know, have our universities play a larger role in the debate commission, we think is a good thing. Look, we got Herbert Institute, we got the Olin Walker Institute at Weber State, and then we got the Hinckley Institute at University of Utah. And, you know, there's others across the state as well. We think that they should play a larger role. And so we think it's good for the citizens of the state to have the healthy debate and to have a system that is fair, that actually increases voter participation. That's what we're looking
So
for.
is the debate commission being criticized by the legislature for not being fair and
No,
partisan?
not necessarily. I mean, we're not criticizing the debate commission. I'm saying over the past, there's been a lot of criticism out there. That's not what we're saying at all. We just say, hey, we think there's a better way to do it. Let's involve our universities. We have the political science at all areas at all the universities. Let's involve them in the process. Okay.
Thank you all.
Right.
Thanks, guys.